Hey everyone, Suzanne here. Now, I have a topic that came up recently in a client session. And what came up was there was a moment, and maybe you remember yours, where you said the thing out loud, the thing you always wanted to do. Maybe it was writing or painting or performing or building something entirely your own. Whatever it was, you said it out loud once and watched the room react. They weren't mean about it. It was just a pause that went a little too long. And, oh, that's interesting, that landed a little flat. A parent who nodded slowly in a way that meant they were already thinking of something more practical to suggest. A friend who said, "But what would you even do with that?" So you did what made sense. You recalibrated. You got practical, you let it go, and you picked the path that had an acceptable answer when someone asked, "So what are you going to do with your life?" Because that question was coming, and you needed an answer that wouldn't make people worry about you. So you filed the other thing away somewhere. You told yourself, maybe later, maybe when things settle down, maybe when I had more time, more money, more something. Maybe when I retire. Except that later never arrived. And the thing you filed away didn't go away. It just got less loud for a while. And now here you are, probably somewhere in your 40s or 50s, and that thing has gotten loud again. And you don't quite know what to do with it. That's what we're talking about today. I'm Suzanne Arjona, and this is Life on Your Terms, where human design meets bold truth and permission to be real. You've played the role, you did what was expected, and now it's time to show up as you. What you're feeling right now, this thing where the career that made sense for the last 20 years is starting to feel like wearing someone else's coat, that's not burnout. You might be tired, that's fair, but this is something different. Burnout is exhaustion from overextension. What you're describing and what I hear from women all the time is more like a mismatch. Like the version of you who made that career choice 20 years ago has genuinely grown past it, and the career didn't grow with her. That's a different problem, and it deserves a different conversation than take a vacation and reset. Because you've taken the vacations, you've done the self-care weekends, you've come back, and it's fine for a while. And then the same feeling comes creeping back in. And the reason it keeps coming back is because it's not about rest. It's about fit. And something in your life stopped fitting. Here's where human design comes in for me. And I'm not going to get technical on you, I promise. But there's a concept that explains much of why we end up in careers that were never actually ours to begin with. It's called conditioning, and that's exactly what it sounds like. From the time we were very small, we absorbed messages about what was acceptable, what was practical, what counted as a real career. And those messages came from the people who loved us. Parents, teachers, guidance counselors, the general culture of the decade we grew up in. For a lot of us currently hitting midlife, that was the 70s and 80s, when the message was pretty clear. Stability matters, prestige matters, a clear career path matters. Following your passion was not exactly the dominant career advice back then. So we didn't. We just set it aside before it ever really got started. Or we followed it part way, and then we made the practical pivot. Now here's the thing about conditioning that human design makes really visible. After enough time, the conditioned voice starts to sound like your own voice. It stops sounding like your parents or your culture or your fear. It just sounds like you, like the sensible, reasonable part of you that knows how things work. So when the thing comes back up, the thing you always wanted to do, you don't even recognize the voice that dismisses it as external. It sounds internal. It sounds like practicality, like wisdom, like knowing better. But it's not wisdom. It's an old recording, and there's a difference. There's a part of your human design called the incarnation cross. And I just want to mention it here briefly because I think it's actually really relevant to this conversation. Your incarnation cross is essentially the overarching theme of your life. Not your job title, not your to-do list. It's your life purpose. And that's about who you are, not what you do. Okay? Now, I'll give you an example from my own life. Growing up, I always felt like I wanted to be a teacher. Not a school teacher exactly, but someone who teaches. And as a young child, I didn't know what that meant in practical terms, but I knew it was true for me. Except in the 70s and 80s, being a teacher wasn't exactly an optimal career path. It wasn't prestigious, it didn't pay well. We were pointed towards things like engineering and accounting, the things that had a clear answer when someone asked what you were going to do with your life. So the teacher thing got set aside. Because of how my life went and not going to college right away, I ended up not doing what was expected of me. I ended up doing direct sales, where I became a coach and mentor to my team. I started coaching formally. I became a Tai Chi instructor. I taught holistic health workshops, and I wrote a book about creating your most authentic life. I was teaching the whole time. I just didn't realize it, and so I didn't call it that. When I found human design and looked at my incarnation cross, which is essentially about guiding people back to their own authenticity, it all made sense. The teaching theme had been running underneath everything, every job, every pivot, everything I was drawn to. Now that's what the incarnation cross does. It runs underneath everything. And even if you don't experience it early on like I did, midlife is often when it becomes impossible to ignore, because the noise that covered it up before starts to quiet down. The packed calendar, the kids, the proving yourself at work, all of it starts to shift. And in that clearing, you can actually hear something you haven't heard clearly in a long time. That thing you always wanted to do suddenly got loud again, and it wasn't random. A lot of women I talk to are waiting for permission, waiting for their partner to say, yes, go for it, waiting for the therapist to give the nod, waiting for the right podcast episode to tell them it's okay. And I get it. That's what we were trained to do, to look outside ourselves for the green light. But here's the thing. That thing that you've been waiting for permission to want, it was never an indulgent wish. It was never impractical. It was in you before anyone told you it wasn't realistic. It showed up in everything you did, even when you thought you had set it aside. It was yours all along. And you don't need permission for something that was always yours. What you might actually need is to stop waiting for someone to hand you a reason to take it seriously, and to start letting it be serious because it's meaningful to you. Stop talking yourself out of it before it even gets to make its case. The first step isn't action. It's just letting the thing exist again, letting it breathe, letting it be real. And I want to be honest, this isn't me telling you to quit your job on Monday. Okay, that's not what we're here for. How you actually move from here is a longer conversation, and we'll get there. But that conversation can't even start until you stop filing the thing back under the not practical tab every time it surfaces. The voice that said it wasn't acceptable, that wasn't your voice. You borrowed it a long time ago, and it just started to feel like your own. You can put it down now. You said the thing out loud once, maybe twice, and you learned to stop. This is me telling you you can start again. You don't have to announce it to anyone yet. You don't have to have a plan. You can just let it back in. Let it be real again. Let it be a possibility, even just to yourself for now. It was always your dream, and it still is. And if you want to go a little deeper on this, if something in this episode hit somewhere real and you want to sit with it rather than just listen and move on, I have a free secret podcast that I want to tell you about. It's called Life on Their Terms Almost Broke Me, and it's specifically for women who are in this exact moment. That place where something is shifting in you and you're starting to ask questions you don't quite have language for yet. The link is in the show notes, so go grab it. It's free, it's private, and it's a great next step if this episode resonated with you. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time.